What is up, tribe? Today I want to go over 5 steps you can take to help get you unstuck, to help get you out of the sense of overwhelm. There is a lot of information floating around out there, talking about your spirituality or just a lot of self-help stuff. And some of it's really accurate. Some of it works for some people, maybe not everyone. And then there's a lot of illusions and there's a lot of things to sift through. So I kind of broke this down to make it more straightforward in a way that works for everyone, really. And with everything floating around out there, it really takes a lot of discernment. You really kind of have to know who you are, know what feels right, trust your intuition, get centered to know what really works for you. So I've broken down how to get to that place. And for me, I'm a very analytical and emotional person. I am a Gemini Cancer cusp baby with a Leo rising and a Libra moon. So very analytical, very sensitive. So I've definitely done the swinging of the pendulum between over analyzing things and getting way too much in the head, or being too much in an emotional state. So I'm going to talk about how to get that balanced. I'm also highly empathic and clairsentient. So on top of being analytical and emotional, I feel the energies of everything around me. I feel very much into a lot of things. I do have a lot of inner knowing, and so sometimes I can pick up on energies and emotions from other people. I can pick up on energies in a room that people have left behind, even if there's no one in it. So sometimes it really takes discernment of knowing what energies, what feelings are mine. So all of this type of stuff can get very overwhelming, and I know that there's people out there that go through the same thing. And so this is how I got myself grounded. So the step 1 is looking at the bigger picture and getting to know the self. So behind me is a graph of the wise mind. So you have your emotional body and you have your analytical body, and being able to combine the two, it really helps to ground you and get clarity, and I'll explain why. This also helps to get a better sense of consciousness, because unconscious is the lack of control over your emotions or your thought patterns. That's putting yourself into a really unconscious state, right? So if you're too emotional, you have a tendency to be too reactional and can get kind of ungrounded, or be in a state of like ignorance is bliss kind of place. Or if you're too analytical, it gets into overthinking. And if you've gotten into places like me, the overthinking can put you into kind of a downward spiral and can cause some anxiety. So with the wise mind, once you kind of integrate the two, that's where you can get centered into your intuition, into your into being able to live mindfully. And this is kind of in a state where you can get your heart and brain in coherence. When your heart and brain is in coherence, that's where you're going to find balance, right? So once you've looked at the big picture of all this, let's break it down then, right? So step 2 would be to go into getting that heart-brain coherence and getting into the emotional body, and knowing your emotional body. A good way to do that and to calm the mind would be using heart math methods. So heart-centered awareness, breathing, meditation, getting into gratitude. Looking into heart math would be beneficial to you. I've found it to be phenomenal for myself, because thinking is the root of most of our suffering, really. So it's really nice to get that centered. So once you kind of get that in balance, the step 3 is the analytical side. So you want to know yourself. You want to be able to use the discernment of if you're having reactions in the body or emotional reactions, you want to know where that's coming from, right? You want to know if that's ancestral trauma from your childhood. So doing things like shadow work and actually analyzing the self and using the mind to know where all this is coming from is going to be really beneficial to you. And also recognizing if other energies are affecting you, knowing what's yours and what's not, and being able to tell the difference. And the body has memory, right? So even if, because I've heard other speakers talk about, how you trust your intuition, you feel in your body, if it feels like a yes. Well, sometimes in the body, your body can go into a fear state, right? And if it's in a fear state, it's going to seem like a no, when really that's more conditioning than intuition. So you kind of have to get that part under control to tap into the intuition, to tap into the body, to get to know where it is that you need to go. For me, so I do have kind of a freeze response because I was diagnosed with complex PTSD. I've been through addiction, abuse, all that good stuff. Grew up in a family that was poor, loaded with addiction and abuse. So one of my go-to states is a freeze state, right? So I've started to kind of, I say fucking possum, and I laugh at it. And because I make it a lighthearted thing, I notice it, recognize when I'm doing it, and say fucking possum, laugh at it, and move on. And that really helps to snap me back into reality, especially after I've done all this work on recognizing my emotional responses and putting myself in the wise mind. So, and I don't shame any part of myself. So this is not me shaming that fear part of myself. I make a joke and a lightheartedness to the response that I make. And so it does it takes its power away, and then I can get my power back, right? So, and also with this, you want to recognize spiritual bypassing. So sometimes there's, or spiritual bias. If there's a trauma response, you might find things around you in a spiritual sense to tell you that it kind of verifies your trauma response, right? So you want to recognize if it's actually a spiritual connection, intuition, spirit talking to you, or if it's a trauma response and you're finding reasons to make it a spiritual connection. So discernment is a big part of this video, because there's so much crap out there. I'm not saying don't listen to other people. Of course, gather as much information as you can. Everyone is a student and everyone is a teacher, so it's really good to have those interactions and get that information. However, having discernment from people that there is some illusions there, or if there's like a trickster energy, or if you're just picking up on other energies, or knowing what's a trauma response, or knowing what's actually like connecting to spirit and giving you truth, what the truth is, because we do live in a world where there's a lot of illusion, and it's one of my main goals is to break free of illusion and find truth and get that freedom, right? So the next step 4 would be to integrate the two. Integrate the intellectual and the emotional into the wise mind. So being in the heart, in the body, right? Connecting with all of your other central chakras, and getting that expanded awareness and that expanded sense of self and that more clarity of your sense of self, balancing between the inner world and the outer world, knowing what's going on inside of you and outside of you. So once you understand your trauma responses and your conditioning from, ancestral trauma or anything like that, when you're in the body and you get that brain, heart, mind, body coherence, that's when your intuition kicks in, right? And when the intuition kicks in, you start to get clarity. There's more of a sense of centeredness, calm, and that's the connection to spirit. That's when synchronicities start to come in, and that's the goal, right? That's where we feel at ease and where things start to flow, and that's when you get into the flow state and you don't have to think so hard, you don't have to plan so much. This is where we want to be. This is kind of a happy place, and I've been in it, and I've been in it in states of my life, and I'm slowly starting to get back into the groove again. I've talked about on other videos how I went through a 10-year dark night of the soul, and I've had recent Kundalini experiences which kind of keep coming up. I've had nausea with it recently, not being able to sleep, on top of like all the other things that I listed in my other video about my Kundalini experiences. So that's like a, kicking up the dust and then letting it settle, kicking up the dust and letting it settle. So, it's a process in itself, but I know what it's like to get into that flow state. And even though I'm floating in and out of it right now, the goal is to get there and maintain that. And knowing myself, where all my traumas come from, and also getting into the heart, into the body, and getting centered is really what's helping me get there. And it really does help me tap into my intuition, connect with spirit, and life just gets so much easier at this point. So painful experiences cause a disconnect between that heart and brain coherence, right? Which can put you more into the overthinking, needing to plan and figure things out, and that anxious state, the too much in the head. Or it can put you in the tailspin of emotional, where you're just really reactionary and you're like, why am I reacting like this all the time? And they're just not grounded at all. So when we get into those states where it is disconnected and we need to get it back into alignment, it's a shift in perception, right? Because if you're two in your head, you've got one perception of things, or if you're two in your emotions, you have another perception of things. If you can get those aligned, then your perception shifts. It becomes more clear. The image becomes more clear, So this work is very important to get to that state of centeredness. So the fifth step in this would be gratitude. Always remembering to have gratitude, because gratitude is your medicine all around. If you are in a state of gratitude, like that's being in a state of divinity to me. That's like the state of the divine is in gratitude and love. And if your heart brain aligned, right, and you're in gratitude, this is how manifestation is created. This is where you start to create your life, and be in a place that you want to be in. When you're in this place of gratitude, and seeing things from a different perspective, you want to let go of the idea that there's an end game. There is no end game. There's not really a place you're going to meet, because your mark is always going to be moving. So you really want to appreciate the now that you're in. Because if you're holding on so tightly to something that's going to be in your future, it's just going to create resistance. So you want to let that go and just be in gratitude, instead of needing something to happen later. Be grateful for what you have right now. And we can all be grateful for things that we have right now, no matter where you are in the world. No matter what you're experiencing, what you have or don't have, there are things that you can be grateful for in your life. And you want to let go of all the illusions like comparison. That makes me think of kids at Christmas time, and going, oh my gosh, I want her toy. Her toy is way better. Yeah, it's silly for us to compare to each other and look at other things like the grass is always greener. We all have good and bad things in life. Comparison it's an illusion. It's a waste of time. Letting go of judgment, judging other people. We're all kind of like kids on this journey. We all have a lot to learn, and some people just don't know any better. And that homeless person on the street that might be, addicted to drugs and acting crazy or whatever, it's simply like a shift in perception of oneself before that guy could be the next Tony Robbins. We don't know what he's capable of in his mind. But maybe it's all he needs to do is believe in himself. And it's just a matter of that. Stepping into your own power, knowing yourself, believing in yourself, and going after your dreams and desires and really immersing yourself in life instead of living in your own pain. And living in your own pain or not is absolutely a choice. I know this because I chose to live in pain for a long time. I chose to not live in pain. So, some other things that you want to let go of when you're living in gratitude are resentment. Holding on to resentment towards other people is literally just creating a prison for yourself. It's not about forgiving them for them. It's about forgiving them to let you go, to let you out of the cage. And for me, letting go of the resentments of the people that have abused or neglected me has been one of the biggest things in my life. One of the things I'm most grateful for. And I actually look at those people with gratitude for showing me things, teaching me about myself, teaching me how I respond to things, teaching me how I respond to to pain, and giving my power away, so that I can learn how to actually step in my power and stop doing that. And it's true. People are like mirrors in a lot of senses, and they will show you parts about yourself, and you will show them parts about themselves. So sometimes you're also reflecting something back to them in these karmic relationships, you know? So there is something always to be learned and taken out of it for personal growth, for spiritual growth. And letting go of the idea of who you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to do. That's all illusion too. All of these things are just illusions. That often just comes from programming, ancestral trauma, things like that. Once you get into alignment with shedding all of that, and get into alignment with your heart space and your intuition, then you can really start to recognize who you are and what you want to be, and lean into yourself instead of what other people have been telling you you're supposed to be, or what society's telling you you're supposed to be. You're not supposed to be anything. Just be. And getting to know yourself and getting to know what it's like to be with yourself in that beingness. For, like, the last several days, I've taken a total solo time out for myself. I'm out in nature, just me and my dog, and lots of meditation. I've had to do lots of shedding of things, and I've had some very interesting experiences recently. Maybe I'll go into them eventually. Highly spiritual experiences I've been going through, but there is that, once you're in that state of comfort of being with yourself and not expecting anything from the outside world to fulfill you, that's huge. It does wonders. So and getting rid of all of these illusions like resentments and judgments and all of that breaks it down to where it breaks down what's going on in your outside world, so that you can really know what's going on in your inside world, right? Getting rid of a lot of those illusions that really don't mean anything. And really getting into that space of that play and childlike wonderment. We really want to get into that space when you're living in gratitude and getting to know the self and being with the self. So all of these things are important in this step of living in gratitude, right? So if all of these things are out of balance and you're not in the wise mind, it pulls you out of a state of calm. And the state of calm, if you're in that state of calm, clarity, and in gratitude, that's when you start manifesting your life. And your thoughts and your words and your emotions and your actions, all of these things have frequency. So if those, it's what vibrational state are you in? So if all of this is out of alignment, if the emotions and the thoughts and if everything's, those frequencies are all out of whack, your vibrational state is not going to be in a very good place, right? So it's important to bring all of these things into balance and come into that calm, clear, grateful, centered state. So if you're in a state of overreacting and in the emotional state, right? Acting on impulse, or if you functioning in that place, that's when it's really important to do things like shadow work and ancestral trauma, do some journaling, free writing, that analyzing part of yourself. However, if you're in the overthinking state and you need to get more into the body, and this one's been pretty, well, it's all important for me, but this is probably actually important for a lot of people because we live in a world of overthinking, overanalyzing, and anxiousness. It's just kind of everywhere. So if you're in that state and you really need to come into the body, some of the things that you can do are exercise, yoga, do cold plunges, dance with your headphones in, do things that are playful, find laughter, breath work, going for a swim. All of these things will bring you more into the body and out of that overthinking, heady space. And don't get too caught up in the analyzing part of things too, doing the shadow work and ancestral trauma, because if you're getting too caught up in that, then that's when you're getting too much in the head, and a lot of that stuff can get overwhelming. So you have to come up for air sometimes. Go out and play with your inner child, get into the body and exercise and dance or whatever to balance that out. And you're in charge of lifting the veil. No one else. You're the only person that can do that for you. So no one else is responsible for your grief. No one else is responsible for your insecurities. No one else is responsible for your well-being or what state your life is in right now. Just you. So knowing that really you can take your power back with that. You can take your power into your own hands and really get down to the core of who you are. And the self-empowerment that comes with this is a beautiful thing. And then really stepping into that place of being centered, calm, in a state of intuition, in a state of connected to spirit. It's the most freeing thing I think that any human can experience, and it's really important for all of us to do that right now. It's really important to me. My mission is to help people step into their power. My mission is to help people understand who they are, what life is really all about, instead of the craziness that's going on in our world today. And really just getting to know themselves, and that self-empowerment, self-love is just such a beautiful thing, and I want to see it in more people because we're so riddled with fear, disempowerment, insecurity across the globe. It's crazy. So, it's time to rise. It's time to rise, my friend. Come out of the cage. Release your fears and your doubts and your insecurities. Well, I hope this video helped. And until next time, Love ya.